The alarm was already screaming when I hit the stairs, and the counter on my wrist unit had already started its fall from 10. Vault 7. Drift breach, automated seal engaged, archive protocol locked the moment the sensor tripped, no override, no appeal, just 10 minutes for anything inside to clear before 6 tons of blast-rated door came down and didn't open again for a year. I'd spent 12 years keeping that door from ever having a reason to close in anger. I wasn't going to start trusting it now. Ostlund, do not enter the vault. Penn's voice came thin and flat through the corridor speaker, the curator's voice doing the thing it did when he was already writing the incident report in his head. That's a structural integrity call, not a salvage call. Whatever tripped the drift sensor, it is catalogued. It is inert. Let the door do its job. I didn't answer him. I'd flagged the reading under crate 119 3 separate times over the past month, a slow, stubborn heat signature where the manifest said dormant specimen, sun cord fragment, non-reactive. And 3 separate times I'd been told the readings were resonance bleed off the older relics stacked around it. Old stone holding old warmth. Nothing to chase. I went in anyway, because 9 minutes was still 9 minutes, and because I had never once in 12 years been wrong about that gauge. The vault smelled like cold rock and machine oil, the emergency lighting throwing everything into a flat amber that made the rows of crated wreckage look like a graveyard somebody had forgotten to bury properly. I found crate 119 wedged under a collapsed support shelf, the lid split where the shelf had come down on it. I got the crowbar into the gap and put my weight on it. The smell that came out wasn't stone. It was animal of a faint hay sour, the smell of something shut in the dark too long without enough air or warmth to keep its own engine running clean. Inside, curled around 3 sunstone fragments gone the color of dead coal, was a dragon the size of a dock dog, its scales a pale, exhausted gray that should have been gold. It wasn't dead. Its ribs moved, barely, the rise so shallow I had to watch 3 full breaths before I trusted what I was seeing. One wing was folded wrong, pinned under the fallen shelf. Its eyes were closed. The sunstones around it, relic-grade light absorbers that drank daylight for 100 years and gave it back slow, were drained dry, dull as river rock, and I understood then what crate 119 had been doing for 6 weeks. Feeding. 8 minutes. I didn't have a name for it yet. I had a crowbar, a stuck wing, and 8 minutes, and that turned out to be enough to be going on with. Ostlund. Pen again, sharper now, because the floor sensors had picked up my heat signature past the point of no return. You have 7 minutes and the door does not negotiate. Whatever you found, leave it. That is an order, not a request. I got the crowbar under the shelf instead of answering and put everything I had into it. The shelf gave an inch, then 2, groaning against the wreckage holding it down. The dragon's wing was scored where the metal had bitten in, not broken, just trapped, and I worked it free a knuckle at a time so I wouldn't tear what was already torn. 6 minutes. The thing didn't move when I lifted it. I felt its heartbeat under my palm, slow and uneven as a clock running down, and some old instinct from 20 years of fixing things that didn't want to be fixed told me it needed light before it needed anything else. I had a work lamp on my belt rated for relic inspection, full spectrum, the kind you use to check a fragment for hairline stress before you move it. I didn't think about what it would do to my equipment log. I held it an inch from the dragon's chest and switched it to full output and watched, for 3 full seconds, absolutely nothing happen. 5 minutes. Then one scale near its throat went from gray to the dullest, most reluctant amber I had ever seen, like a coal somebody had finally remembered to breathe on. 4 minutes, Ostlund. I am not authorized to stop that door. I know what you're authorized to do, Penn. First thing I'd said since I came down. My voice didn't sound like mine. I had the dragon against my chest now, lamp wedged between us so the light stayed on it while I carried it, and it had started, weakly, to grip, one small clawed hand finding the front of my coat and closing on the fabric like it had decided, somewhere in whatever passed for a dragon's sleeping mind, that letting go was the one thing it wasn't going to do twice. I didn't put it down to run faster. I ran with it instead, the work lamp throwing a small moving square of daylight across the crates as we went, and somewhere behind me I heard the relay click that meant the corridor door had already started its own countdown to seal independent of the vaults. 2 minutes, and the access ramp ahead of me, and the override panel on the inner door dark and useless where the breach had fried it on the way in. I didn't slow down to check whether the wedge would hold. I shoved my crowbar into the door track on the way past and trusted 12 years of knowing exactly how much give that steel had in it, and it held, not open, just slow, just enough. The outer threshold caught my trailing hand as I went through. Not my arm. Not the dragon. Just 3 fingers and the back of one glove, and the door finished closing on empty air a half second after I cleared it, the impact loud enough that I felt it in my teeth. I sat down hard on the corridor floor with the dragon still locked against my chest, its claws still hooked in my coat, and I didn't try to pry them loose. My hand was bleeding through the glove in a way that meant stitches, and I didn't care, because the scale under my palm had gone from amber to something closer to actual gold, and the dragon's eyes, slit, deep green, alien in a way no amount of looking at it was going to make familiar, had opened, and were looking directly at me, and weren't letting go either. Penn found us like that. He didn't say I told you so. To his credit, he never did. He looked at the hatchling, and at my hand, and at the readout still climbing on his own clipboard, and went very quiet, which from Penn was its own kind of apology. We kept it warm through the night on every work lamp the archive owned, in a storage room that had never held anything alive. By morning its scales had come up gold amber clean to the wingtip, and the sunstone I'd carried out in my coat pocket, the one piece I'd grabbed without thinking, the only fragment still holding a flicker of charge, had started pulsing on its own, slow, like something breathing. That was the signal. We didn't know it yet, but something a long way off did. She came alone, no formation, no escort, dropping out of the morning sky just past noon and landing in the yard without so much as cracking a window. Golden rust scales catching the light the same way the hatchlings now did, a head the size of a transport cab lowered, not to the ground, not in any gesture I'd have called a bow, but level, to my eye height, the way you lower yourself to speak with someone you've decided is worth the trouble. She didn't ask for the hatchling. She looked at it where it sat curled in my lap refusing to be anywhere else, and looked at my bandaged hand, and pressed the warm flat of her snout against it for exactly as long as it took for the ache to ease, which was longer than made any physical sense and which I never once questioned. His name, she told me, and I felt it more than heard it, the way you feel a struck bell through a floor, was Vale, lost 6 weeks ago when a recovery flight went down in weather no one logged correctly, miscatalogued by salvage crews who saw dim scales and dead stones and wrote dormant specimen because nothing alive was supposed to look like that. He'd been feeding on whatever light those drained stones still held, and would have gone out entirely inside another week. Penn amended the manifest himself, by hand, no incident filed against me. Nobody offered me a title and I wouldn't have known what to do with one. I asked for exactly one thing, which was permission to keep that work lamp, the one with the cracked housing and the burned-out reflector, because it still worked, mostly, and I'd gotten used to the weight of it. Vale left with her 2 days later, steadier on his wing than he had any right to be, and didn't look back, and I didn't expect him to. That's not how it works, not really, not when you've done the thing right. But the Dawn Court keeps better books than the archive ever did. Once a season, sometimes less, a shadow crosses low over Hollow Reach in the hour before noon, gold against the sun, gone again before I've gotten all the way to the window, and the light in my office, for just that minute, comes through a little warmer than it has any business being. I still keep the lamp on my desk. I haven't needed it in a long time. I keep it anyway.